The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our November 3rd Thursday webinar. As you can see, things look a little bit different today. You actually get to see our faces, and we're just going to have a great conversation in a podcast format this morning called Looking to the Future. We have Heath right here and Brian Lassiter with me, Margot Hoffman. Before we get started, I just want to share with you that we're going to be covering a lot of information today. So we're not sure if we'll be able to get to your questions, but we do still want you to put your questions in the question box. If we can get to them, we will. If we can't, we will follow up after the webinar and get back with you. I also just want to remind everyone that all of our Alliance programs have events and activities throughout the year. So remember to regularly visit your program's website and engage with your program and get involved with some of the events. I would also like to thank all of our organizational members. We couldn't do the work we do to help promote performance excellence without the support of our great organizational members. I would now like to introduce Heath Wright, who is going to be the moderator for this podcast style webinar.
Yeah, thank you so much, Margot. And for those of you that don't know me, I get to work with the Oklahoma program and have thoroughly enjoyed it. And just kind of the reason for this podcast and what we wanted to do is we've been meeting as the Alliance, the board's been meeting in several committees for the last couple of months. There's been a lot of challenges, a lot of excitement in those meetings, a lot of changes. And we just really wanted to give Brian and Margot an opportunity to kind of let people know where we're at, to cast the vision, have a little bit of discussion. I have been thoroughly impressed with where they want to go. And so with that, the format's going to be, I'm going to ask a few questions. We'll look for questions that might come in from the audience. We might take some, we might not. It just kind of depends on the flow. And with that, I will just jump right in. You are going to notice that we're going to try to practice what we preach with Baldrige, which means we're going to start off with mission and purpose. And so Brian, through these changes, how would you describe the Alliance's mission in a simple, everyday language today?
Yeah, well, thank you, Heath, and thanks, Margot, for the invitation. This will be a fun conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. And I love starting with a pop quiz. What is our mission? Do you mind? We have a plan on a page. If you could pull that up, I'm going to give a little context because some of the folks on the line probably know who the Alliance is, but many might not even know who we are. So a quick little sidebar. The Alliance was founded in 2005. So this is our 20th anniversary, by the way. And it was really created with the purpose of promoting more consistency and more systematic sharing of best practices across these independent Baldrige programs in the nation. Since 2005, I've really seen two things. One, we've expanded our coverage. Back then, we covered, I think it was 43 states, something like that. And now we cover all 50. And second is regional consolidation, which is part of that. Some states picked up other states that weren't being served and so forth. So now we cover all 50 U.S. states and U.S. territories. So we are 25 member programs serving all 50 states. These include 2 national members, ACA and Communities of Excellence, now CORE, and 1 international member. So it's a neat, unique network of Baldrige-based programs and 4 other members that are organizations and individuals that support our mission. So that was a little bit of sidebar. But now you can see on this page, I'll give you a little context to this. We spent a decent amount of time as an Alliance, gosh, it was probably a year or more, reflecting on our foundational statements as we approached the 20th anniversary. And they had shifted. The world had shifted. The environment is totally different and so forth. So what you're seeing here now, the purpose, mission, vision, values, and value proposition are all fairly new within the last year or so. The purpose statement, we didn't have one, if I recall. And I think that is a really inspirational phrase, is to inspire individuals, organizations, and communities across the U.S. and the world to learn, implement, and achieve higher levels of performance. And the corollary mission statement right behind it, why we exist, is to strengthen our members through training, mentoring, collaboration, and sharing of resources, best practices, and service offerings. You asked for a paraphrase. Really, it's helping our members get better at what they do. Joanne Sturkey, I don't think she's on the line. She loves the phrase, Baldrige is all about getting better at getting better. That's really what the Alliance is trying to do, is help enable our members to serve their constituents to reach higher levels of performance.
Yeah, I think that's great, Brian. And I'm not going to shift a little bit to Margot, and I'm going to recognize our history a little bit. Really, the history of the Alliance for a long time was more of a membership model, and there was a lot of collaboration, and we wanted to hear from the members, and there was a lot of discussion. But as things were being reimagined, the Alliance and the board really felt that they needed a shift. And so, Margot, now as the new chair, why was it important for the Alliance to create the CEO role and make these changes? And what needs do you feel it meets now?
So I love this question because for several years we've been talking within the Alliance Board of Directors the need to staff our organization so we could better serve our members. And as you said, for almost 20 years, we've been led and managed by an entirely volunteer group of leaders. And they're amazing. I mean, the things that were accomplished were fantastic when you think that those people do in their spare time. But we always wish we could do things a little faster and have a little bit more impact. And so we started looking at ways where we could, kind of ramp up to staffing. So in 2022, we actually brought Alex Faison Donahoe, who some of you may know, who's our marketing director, who has helped us with marketing the Alliance better. Just last year, we brought on Jean Cruz to provide some part-time administrative and operational support. And with each of those positions, we were gaining momentum and we were getting some organizational strength. And then several months ago, we started to see opportunities for the Alliance to become a more significant contributor to the initiatives within the Baldrige enterprise. And so it was just the right time to put some leadership at the helm of the Alliance. And so we were by the entire board to put a CEO position in place. Someone that could be dedicated to the daily management of the Alliance to help us grow and strengthen the work that we do and make a bigger impact and become a better, stronger partner with those other organizations within the Baldrige enterprise. So we were thrilled to have Brian step up to take on this role. And if you know Brian, he has been running from day one and things are happening, which we're really excited about. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in some of the upcoming questions.
Yeah, thank you, Margot. And so, Brian, I want to share with the audience a little bit from my perspective. I've been really excited about some things you've shared, but I also think it's fair that they know that in the background, you and I've had some pretty hard, candid conversations where we've challenged each other, and some of those weren't easy. I will tell you, I fully respect how you handled them. So I am so excited for this question. How do you define success for the Alliance mission going forward? And right now, what outcomes do you think matter most?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it is shifting. I know it's shifting, and I think it'll continue to shift as the board and I plan a new vision moving forward. But I think it comes down to two things. It's better serving the members we have, increasing the value we provide to our current members, and expanding our footprint to get more of them. We were originally created to serve Baldrige-based programs, and that's still our focus. That's still our core. But that's a pretty minimized impact in the work that we're trying to do, the purpose and mission that I just shared with you all. So we could have hundreds, if not thousands, of members nationwide or globally that all embrace performance excellence, embrace the Baldrige framework, and try to get better at getting better. So I think success is defined by going deeper with the members we have, really supporting them, serving them, increasing the value we provide to them, and allowing more organizations, communities into the tent. I have to mention, and Margot, you and the board have confidence in me, and I really appreciate that. It's been a really interesting 6 months. Not only trying to juggle 2 CEO jobs. For those of you that don't know, I'm still CEO of Performance Excellence Network, which is one of the 25 Alliance members, and that'll come to an end here in the next couple of months as I hand the baton to someone else. But one of the very first things I committed to the board to do was visit every single Alliance member in a listening session. And boy, I learned a lot. And it's funny because I've been working with most of these members for years, and I know everybody and so forth. But when you start asking the open-ended questions about how their program is going and what are their challenges and their opportunities and so forth, I kid you not, there's over 60 ideas that came through those conversations of how we could add value for our current members, as well as sustain and grow the alliance itself. So the board and I are now in a process of prioritizing and sequencing those ideas. You can't do 60 things at once, but I'm confident we're going to find ways to add a lot more value for the members we serve. And so success is really, I think, moving the dial with our members. Are they sustaining? Are they growing? Are we expanding our reach? So that's really the short answer of how I think we define success moving forward.
And
Brian, I want to.
can I add to that
Margo,
one? Can I add to
let
that?
me add something
Okay.
real quick because we had a question come in that I think will bridge the two.
Sure.
There was a comment, and the reason I want to add it in is some of the conversations that we had that were really hard in the alliance that I thought you did a really good job of answering at times is in the 90s, there were more applicants that were coming in than there are now. And I've heard you recognize that. I heard the board recognize it. Would you just comment on that a little bit? And basically, the alliance knows that there were more before, and you want to address that.
Yeah, we have to grow. We absolutely have to grow. And I do see the question now. There used to be 80 plus national applicants, and that's absolutely true. Some of them have been pushed into alliance member programs as we try to create this more seamless pathway for organizations and communities that want to get better. So the alliance didn't exist, and many of our member programs didn't exist in the 90s. They all grew at different times and for different reasons. And so some of the activity that we used to see at the national program has been consolidated within state and regional alliance member programs. Having said that, all of us need to grow. The alliance members need to grow their pipeline so that we have more organizations and communities using this valuable framework, and the national program needs to grow. We had, I think, 18 applicants this last year. I don't know why it's not 180 or 1,080. So we need to grow the entire pipeline. We know this thing works. We know Baldrige has almost 40 years of history in improving organizations and now communities' performance. Why not more of them using it?
And I'll just add my 2 cents. So just to expand on what Brian said, the past 5 years have just been really uncertain, a lot of volatility, which has been really, really challenging to our program members. They've had to be agile and resilient to weather, this unpredictable environment, which has been really difficult. And as we've already shared, I mean, one of the great things about the Alliance is, although we're a member organization, there's just a tremendous amount of collaboration that goes on among our members. We share best practices, we work together on potential programs to offer, we provide one another with resources, and we've seen programs consolidate from state programs to more regional programs. So it's exciting and great to see. So success to me is seeing our member programs, first of all, being financially stable, because if you cannot be financially stable, it's really hard to sustain. But also providing consistent quality, high quality services to promote performance excellence and leveraging those resources and tools that are available through the Alliance and through the Baldrige enterprise. So I think if we can get there, that's success to me.
I think that sounds great. And I'm going to give just a quick personal testimony to validate that. I mean, when I was able to take over as the CEO of this program, we had a person in the past that had left us a little bit of money that we could do something with. He had really done a lot for Oklahoma, but I didn't know certain things about how to set things together or put things together. And a lot of the best practices I got from the Alliance, and multiple members helped me set that up. Brian, I think we were having weekly calls. So I would say you absolutely did that and were a success story. And that might allow me just to then ask the question, when you say that you help or equip state programs or we share, what do you think that looks like in real life today?
Yeah, part of it, you just said it. It is that sharing of best practices and ideas across Alliance members. And that has always happened organically. But recently, the Alliance Membership Committee, and you're part of that, Heath, created what we call Alliance University as a way to gather tools and resources and best practices across the Alliance members, put it in a place that others can leverage. And so it was about a year ago or more, we established that Alliance University. I think we just scratched the surface of what that can do for our Alliance members. And why reinvent the wheel? We've got all these great ideas and pockets of excellence around the Alliance. I think that'll really help. I think a lot of those other 60 plus ideas are going to help too. Some of them deal with technology. And I'll get to it a little later if we have time, but one of our member programs shared just last week how they're using AI in their evaluation process. They're piloting several different platforms to see if they can reduce the time, improve the feedback. And I know there's several other Alliance members that are dabbling in that too. So more technology, better sharing best practices, more marketing collateral. This speaks to the question you asked just a while ago. We've got to grow this pipeline. The fact we only have a few hundred organizations and communities using this, when there's several tens of millions across the nation, we have our work to do to grow our market share, if you will. And I think, more services and revenue generating offerings for our Alliance members themselves that you can kind of turnkey. We've got these great ideas around the Alliance. And, I think it's one of the strengths. It might be so unhealthy. Sometimes your biggest strengths are also your OFIs, opportunities for improvement, if you don't know what that acronym is, where we have these pockets of excellence and innovative ideas that grow out of an Alliance, but they need to be mandated, replicated. Take great ideas and scale them across the Alliance because we know they work. So I can envision a time where the Alliance becomes somewhat of an incubator, where we encourage and maybe even support with resources the seeding of great ideas around the Alliance that can be tested, piloted, and scaled for the good ones.
No, I think that's really good. And Margot, I'd kind of like to give you an opportunity. Do you want to add anything into that? Because as I think more about it, you and I had conversations and you really helped our program as well. Anything you want to add to that?
I would. And one of them is just what you said, Heath, is I think mentoring and coaching new program directors. I've been in this role for 11 years, and I've been doing Baldrige, I hate to admit it, for 30 years. I worked with a past applicant, and so I've been around the block when it comes to Baldrige. But when I came in, people were very generous to share things with me. And I, on a regular basis, get calls from other program directors that are a little bit newer in their roles. And I get just as much sitting down with them and sharing some of the things we do as they get out of it. So I think that coaching and mentoring of our new program directors. The other thing that just to go off of what Brian says, is being an incubator. I'm always amazed, very pleasantly surprised at how quickly our members just raise their hand when they see a gap or a void. And I'll give you an example. When the national program changed their award criteria and stopped doing a case study, Tennessee raised their hand and said, we'll develop a case study. And then other people throughout the Alliance said, we'll help with developing that case study. And so we never missed a beat with having a case study with a consensus scorebook to use in our examiner training. And that happens all the time in the Alliance, of just people seeing an opportunity to fill a gap and volunteering to help with doing that.
So I didn't expect to spend this much time on this, but I think now that we're talking about it, I think I'd like to add some things just as a testimony. Tennessee came and helped us train examiners. We got in a position where we didn't have enough examiners one year, and Tennessee helped us. All of us was very willing to mentor and walk me through some things. Irby helped us with some judging documents. I would kind of go on and on, but as I look back, I received a significant amount of things from this team. I do think sometimes it's worthwhile to also say maybe some things in the background that people wouldn't know. And so what I will say is, Brian, one of the things that I've learned to respect about you a lot that people wouldn't know is there were some times that I really disagreed with you on some things, and I called you and we had some hard conversations. And the reason I bring that up is when I walked away, I respected you more because we walked through it. There were some things we agreed to disagree on, but you were always willing to continue that conversation. And when I walked away from that conversation, I actually felt like there was a path in the future, and I understand where you were coming from. And I think because you were able to make me feel that way, a follow-up I have is, what do you want people to think or feel when they hear about the Alliance for Performance Excellence today? Well, how would you like them to come away from this conversation, or just where you're at today as an organization?
Yeah, well, thank you for the compliment, by the way. If we were together, this is time for a group hug up on stage or something like that, but I appreciate that. None of us are as strong as all of us, right? And so I do think part of the strength of the Alliance, and it's also one of our OFIs, is that we have 25 independent programs that each have their priorities, their strengths, their operational environments or whatever. And so this is both a strength and an opportunity. I want people to think about the Alliance in the future with hope, optimism, and confidence. And I'm not sure we're there yet. I think some of that is starting to come through, but because we are 25 independent programs, we do have some inconsistencies across the Alliance. And boy, gosh, was it 13 years ago, Margot, that we created the top tier award standards? Which ironically enough, they're sitting there, and every year we ask Alliance members, are you upholding them? But they've never been reviewed and revised. And so that is on our plan for 2026, is to take a look at those top level standards with an effort of trying to improve the consistency across Alliance member programs, so that you get a top level award from any of our 25 members, it's about the same. You have some confidence in the evaluation process and the recognition level. So that's one thing. Having said that, I think there's growing evidence, though, that organizations and communities that start their performance excellence journey with an Alliance member program have better results over time. And I don't have the data in front of me, but I know Bob Fangmeyer, the director of the Baldrige program, has said 75, 80%, I think is the number, of the national recipients have first received their top tier awards. That's evidence that if you just jump into Baldrige and try to go for the trophy, you're probably not going to succeed. You've got to work with Alliance member programs over time, stabilize your process, improve your process, and then your results will come along. So the Alliance members have always been labeled as developmental in nature. And I think that's absolutely true. You start working with your Alliance member programs, you will get better over time. And then if you want to go for the national recognition, that's there for you too. But back to your original question, hope, optimism, and confidence.
Yeah, and so since it's not really a question, I think it's a really good statement. And I know there's been a lot of discussion between the foundation and you, and I've had an interesting opportunity to be able to talk to Josh and the foundation. But I've heard you express a lot of excitement on what the foundation can do in promoting Baldrige as well. And I think Carrie Hill made a really good comment that they've also done some things on this. You've talked about a very collaborative spirit. You might want to talk about where you think that could work in the future. Yeah,
I think it has to. This is, to borrow a phrase, this is not how you'd build a railroad. I mean, we have 25 independent Alliance member programs that belong to the Alliance. You've got the Baldrige Foundation, for those that are not familiar, that was created in 1988 to support fundraising and advocacy in support of the Baldrige mission itself. You got the Baldrige program, which is a federal agency, and we partner with ASQ and some others as well, Communities of Excellence I mentioned earlier. They're all independent organizations serving different priorities, different boards, different markets, and so forth. And I think we've done a decent job, particularly lately, in trying to work better together, collaborate, share resources, share ideas. But I think we have a lot more to further to go in that regard. And the Alliance is committed to working with the foundation and finding better business models, better ways to share ideas and resources across our organizations to really grow the impact that both of our organizations are trying to achieve.
Margot, as the board chair, do you want to comment on that at all?
I'll comment on a couple things, and I absolutely agree with Brian. Is that it's intuitive that we have to cooperate and collaborate and grow with the foundation, but within the whole enterprise. So there's a lot of players in the enterprise. The consultants are really important players in the enterprise, and they contribute a lot to both the Alliance, the national program, and the foundation as well. And then just, all of our customers. So there's just, we have a lot of, the one thing I'll say about the Baldrige community is they have a passion for using the Baldrige framework to improve performance. And let's just get behind that. And let's carry this Baldrige mission into the future. And so, I hope when people think of the Alliance, they want to partner with us and walk down that path of performance excellence on their performance excellence journey with us by their side. And so that's when we can feel successful, is when we know that organizations and communities want to have that relationship with us.
I love that. And you used the word, so I guess we should go there. I'm trying to decide. I think I'll direct this to Brian as the CEO. So as the new CEO, I heard the term vision come up. That's a big Baldrige word. Mm-hmm. So I guess if we're going to live what we say, so give us a little bit about your vision for the next few years.
Well, I'm glad you still have the plan on the page up, because that'll help me recite it. But then I'll tell you what I think it means, and then maybe we can take it down so we can see each other's faces better. But the vision we've created just last year is to be the premier resource for organizations and communities desiring to achieve and sustain excellence. And visions, I think most of you on the line here know, are intended to be aspirational. You may never fully accomplish it, but it's that beacon, it's that point in the future that you're trying to achieve, at least make progress towards it. So I'd like leaders and organizations and communities to think about the Alliance first when they need support in improving their own performance. I think we're kind of an afterthought in many ways. There's a lot of great resources, and Margot called out the consultants. You can think of them first too. It's 1A and 1B, I suppose. But there's a lot of management consultants running around doing their thing, and people selling books and so forth. I really would love the Alliance to be considered a premier resource for organizations and communities that want to get better. And to be honest, in a few years, what that means to me is that we can be 10 times, maybe 20 times the size that we are, and 20 times the impact that we're making. There's no reason why we can't have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of organizations using this framework. And many of them applying for our recognition and doing the evaluations and so forth. We all know Baldrige works. We've got almost 40 years of history now that it works in organizations. Now we're proving it works in communities. We just need to get more of them using it so that we're achieving our ultimate vision. Or you might want to add to that. I don't know.
Well, if we're achieving that mission, how I visualize it is that we have all sectors of the economy engaged with us. There's some sectors that have been a little bit more heavy the last few years. We want to get all sectors of the economy engaged, and we want to see hundreds of top tier recipients from our Alliance programs that can then go on to the national. And to do that, we want to have a more integrated approach and a smoother pathway for our top tier to get there. And if we can get there, gosh, we're going to have hundreds and thousands of high-performing organizations that are just really making a positive impact in our communities and in the world. So that's world peace, but I would really love to see it.
Yeah, and if I could just add this, Heath, before we move on.
Yeah, please.
I have heard that Baldrige is the nation's best kept secret, and even after 40 years, I think it's absolutely true, and it's absolutely unfortunate. We have to change that. Our collective vision, it's not just the Alliance, it is all parts of the enterprise, as you mentioned. We have to grow this and have more organizations and communities involved, and more in benefiting from what we know is a valuable framework.
So Brian, there was another comment that came through, and it came through from Kerry Hill. And I think he's been such a part of Baldrige. I know he was a mentor of mine for a while. He functions as a judge and has taken organizations through. So we've kind of used that term consultant. We've used that term equip. He actually put out that he really agreed with the incubator idea. You might expound a little bit on that. I think that would be important for people to hear. What does that mean to you when you say an incubator?
Well, it's not yet designed, so I'm not sure what I mean. It's kind of a visionary statement at this point. But I mentioned most of the, I can't say most, a lot of the ideas that eventually get adopted nationwide have started in one of our Alliance members. And I think of innovative techniques in the evaluation process itself. And there's a lot of different tools that I won't recite them all, that are being used by various Alliance members in the national program. We had the Baldrige Express, which is an online evaluation instrument that we used for several years. And then unfortunately, the technology became outdated. We've got some programs adding steps to the end of the process. Penn calls it an improvement planning session. I know some of our Alliance members have something similar, where you don't just throw them the feedback report and let leaders figure out what it means. You actually sit down with them for a couple hours and translate the findings and give examples and maybe some ideas about where you might go next. We've got communities of practice that have sprung out all over the country. We've got roundtables and various offerings that are similar to the Baldrige Fellows Program, which is a national, very high level, very strategic, cohort-based sharing and learning forum. Well, we've got them in our state programs too. So all these came about at different times and are being used by some of the Alliance members, but not all of them. And like I said earlier, I don't see a mandate. You must use all of these, but a systematic way of identifying, designing, piloting, and then scaling where appropriate these great ideas. I think we've just scratched the surface of some of these concepts to the benefit of our Alliance members and those that they serve.
Well, this is where I get to learn how to be a moderator because we have questions coming in. So we've got several that have come in on the same thing. So I'm going to kick it that direction. So we've been talking about this thing where the Alliance may play a larger role with the Baldrige Enterprise or award, or tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So yeah, I see a couple of the questions coming in too. And my gosh, we made it halfway through the session and haven't mentioned this exciting news that just broke, what, 48 hours ago? So for those of you on the line that have not heard, it was announced on Tuesday afternoon that the Alliance's role and the Foundation's role will both be expanded to sustain and expand the mission of Baldrige across the nation. So in this new agreement that we have with Department of Commerce and NIST and the Baldrige program itself, the Alliance will be providing the management and operations of the prestigious Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award that we all know and love. And the Baldrige Foundation will manage the operations of Quest for Excellence Conference, the Baldrige Excellence Framework Revisions, and the Baldrige Executive Fellows Program. And so I first have to say, and Margot, you probably have something to say here too, we're honored and we're excited to expand upon the decades-long partnership with BPEP, the Baldrige program, to sustain and grow this thing. As my quote in the press release said, and Baldrige has now been proven for almost 40 years. Is it 2 years from now? We'll celebrate the 40th year as a useful framework that really does truly drive results for organizations and now communities. And I'm really excited to what the partnership will help us do to expand it for the next 40 years. So before I go further, I have a lot more to say about this topic, but I'm sure Margot has something to add there.
Well, I just think it's just a tremendous opportunity for us. And as we've been sharing throughout the discussion, is there are just some really valuable resources within the Alliance and within the whole Baldrige enterprise. And those resources, they're knowledgeable, they're committed to sustaining the Baldrige mission. And this is the opportunity for us to leverage them. And I also think that we have a little bit more freedom maybe to promote Baldrige than when it was entirely embedded in the national government. So it's just a great opportunity to make Baldrige not that best kept secret. Let's get out there, everyone online, let's get out there and just really promote Baldrige, and that all of us are here to collaborate together to create more awareness and execute these services that we'll provide back to the national program just in the most successful way that we can.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I'm processing some of the questions that are coming in. I'm going to see if I can ask some questions that get all of them together maybe. We've talked a little bit about, I've heard you talk about national and BPEP, and we've talked about the Alliance. And I will say, I've gotten to talk to many people from each of those areas. There does appear to be a new excitement right now. And I love this collaborative approach that's emerging. I want to go specifically to the Alliance, and there's been some questions about how AI can help. So I'm going to try to craft these together. But how do you think the Alliance is positioned to remove barriers for organizations in all the states to help them engage? And this may sound like a weird link, except I know there's some examples in the background. How does AI maybe play into that in the future? Where are we positioned? How does AI play in? Just a very broad question, Brian.
Okay, so I'm going to answer your AI question, but I'm going to back up a half step to the national award process if I can, and then I'll get back to AI. So bear with me, Heath, and everyone else listening, because I just scratched the surface about where the award process might go. And I do want to get back to AI. So we're already starting to work on a new vision for what the 2026 cycle might look like. We need to get a lot more feedback from key stakeholders, applicants and recipients and examiners and judges and consultants and everyone really. But the vision is going to center around a couple of things. One is streamlining and simplifying the process itself. So you mentioned AI as a way to remove barriers. I think this is a way to remove them too, is to make it easier for organizations and communities to come into the process and find benefit in the process. So we're thinking about ways to remove steps within the evaluation process that decreases the time involved, the duration involved, but still preserve the rigor of the evaluation process itself. We also are thinking about ways to more fully integrate the evaluation processes that already exist within the Alliance members with the national award process. And for 40 years they've been related, but there's been a handoff, and we're all quality wonks, right? We know that handoffs are not efficient; they create waste. So when we're done with our work, we throw it to the national and let them do theirs. That doesn't seem like a real efficient or effective way to do this. So we're thinking about ways. I remember Harry Hurt saying the difference between alignment looks like, can you see my hands? Looks like this, and integration is more like this. We want a more integrated, more seamless pathway for organizations and communities to work their way through the Alliance member programs and into the national program. Not exactly sure what that looks like, although we have some ideas emerging that we'll have to socialize and test. But I'm really excited about leveraging the good work of Alliance members and to take that next step to a national recognition. So I can say more about that if you're interested. How AI comes in and technology in other ways. I think we need to be careful how we do this. I mentioned that there's at least one and a couple of Alliance members that are experimenting. AI is very powerful, but there's also risks involved with it. We've got to protect confidentiality, and we've got to make sure that it's not hallucinating and giving improper feedback and so forth. So there's many different platforms. There's many different tools that we're exploring, and we will not use AI in the national program in 2026. But I do see it coming shortly thereafter. I mean, AI is here, and we're using
Brian,
it.
sorry to cut you off for
you
time. Bet. Yeah. I threw that out there. I thought it was important to say. I think AI is for a different time.
You bet.
And I do want to move it because I know there's some things that you want to get to. But maybe a question that's been out there a lot is, we want to balance growth and reimagining. And then this idea, we also need to maintain high standards. So you don't want to open the funnel too much and make it too easy. We want to protect all of our previous national winners' rigor. How do you see the Alliance balancing it? And maybe just to be honest with you with data, where do you think we're at today?
And this one's for me, Heath?
Yes.
Okay. And Margot, I'm sure you can fill in some of the gaps, but excellence is in our mission. So I guess be careful what you ask for. We have to hold ourselves to a high standard, and shoddy outcomes and shoddy performance is not going to cut it. And I'm not saying our Alliance members produce shoddy outcomes, but I did mention the inconsistency before, and that's something we have attempted historically to improve, and that's on our radar to do even better in the future. I think we're probably, 5 or 6 out of 10 and could do a lot better to get more consistency across Alliance member programs where it's needed. But preserving this independence and this entrepreneurial spirit and this ability to innovate and incubate new ideas. And so there's the tension of promoting consistency in the award process, the evaluation process where we need it, but allow the local control, local autonomy, and these great new ideas that always come out of Alliance member programs. So I don't have an answer for you yet, but this is absolutely where we have to go, is find that balance between those two tension points.
And if I could add to that, I know this is cliche, but we need to walk the talk. I mean, we are out there promoting performance excellence. We're training organizations from a systems perspective to reach higher levels of performance, and we need to do that ourselves as the Alliance. We do have an organizational profile. It needs to be updated. We do have a lot of processes that are in place, and we need to put them through cycles of evaluation and improvement. We have this amazing tool called the Baldrige Excellence Framework, and we leverage it, but we need to leverage it better, and do the things that we're sharing with our constituents to improve their performance.
So I know Irvi is on the call. And in many of our discussions, Irvi is one of the ones that will constantly hold our feet to the fire and say, we need some data. We need data. We need data. So let me ask you maybe a hard question to be true to Baldrige. And Margot, you opened that door a little bit. So how would you measure, and how do we measure whether the Alliance is truly making organizations across the nation stronger?
Well, since I opened the door, we do a member survey every year that provides us with some qualitative data, such as number of applications, examiners, top tier recipients. We're measuring our outreach. which does provide us with data on people that we're at least introducing to performance excellence concepts. So hopefully it is making a difference. We do have a lot of best practices that we share from our own members as well as our applicants. And we share a lot of success stories, but those are all qualitative. So I think that we have an opportunity to develop and measure some metrics that really demonstrate this impact. So we do have some metrics in place, but they might not be telling the whole story. So how do we put some metrics in place that help us tell our story a little bit better?
And I know that there's teams in the Alliance that have been talking about that. And I do want to make sure everybody on this call knows, I don't think we can get through a single discussion with Irvi that doesn't bring up, we need some data and we need to get serious about managing it, which does fit the Baldrige value of managing by fact. So I think what I want people to hear from me, I wasn't going to say a whole lot, but I think it's important. There are people holding our feet to the fire in the Alliance right now with the new mission. And that's been some stuff that Brian and Margot have been asked to present. We can't get into all that today, but I do want people to know that that's out there. So I know we're coming up on some time. There's a couple of things that I do want to get to. What's one thing, and I know a lot of things have been thrown around in our meetings, but what's one thing you wish every leader in America understood about the power of the Baldrige approach? And I'll add two more, the mission and maybe the framework. What do you wish people knew about those things?
You want to go first here, Heath?
You want me
Margo,
to?
you go first. No, you go first.
So one of the things, the thing about all of us in the Alliance is we also all run programs. So we're directly working with organizations that are on the Baldrige journey, thinking about starting a performance excellence journey. One of the things that I hear, and I know I'm not alone when I start talking to organizations, is either they're not ready to start or that it's not the right time to start. And I just want to share that we meet organizations wherever they are. And so when's the best time to start? Right now? It's never too early and it's never too late. So I just encourage organizations, start on a performance excellence journey. We would love to be your partner in doing that. And then once you start, keep doing it, because the most successful organizations, it just becomes a part of how they run their organization. It becomes embedded into how they do their work. It's not, oh, we have this Baldrige initiative or this flavor of the month that we're working on. It's just how we run our organization and how we do our business to be successful. So first of all, start. And second of all, keep on going, is what I would say is how to leverage the power of Baldrige.
Yeah. If I could build on that, Heath, I completely agree. I have had so many conversations with senior leaders about the power of Baldrige, trying to convince them to do it. And the one thing that I always tell them is you cannot opt out of Baldrige. You can't opt out of it. You can always opt out of doing a formal evaluation or going for an award or so forth. But you look at the 7 categories of Baldrige, right? Which ones don't apply to any organization of any size and type or any community? It's all about leadership and strategy and customer and workforce and so forth. So I've heard so many CEOs tell me that the Baldrige framework helps make the invisible a lot more visible. It's already going on within your system, within your organization. It just helps you see it and see those precious strengths you want to maintain or grow, and see those precious opportunities for improvement that you need to focus on and tighten up. So it absolutely works. And Margo's right. Just start where you are, start today, and stick with it. Deming had the phrase constancy of purpose. Don't give up. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be constraints. There's going to be challenges. But keep with it. It absolutely produces results.
I want to change the question just a little bit, and maybe it's a statement and you can choose to comment on it if you want, but I know one thing that's been thrown around in some of the meetings I've been in, both with the Alliance and outside of, is we just kind of want a day that if you're at a company or you're at a neighborhood picnic, you don't want to have to explain to somebody what Baldrige is. Can you talk a little bit about that? And also it follows up with the question of, do we have a few talking points on a page that we could give somebody to help?
Yeah, we do. I don't think they're effective, or we wouldn't be having this question, this conversation. I'm still trying to get people to spell Baldrige right. It's often spelled with two D's, and it doesn't have two, as we all know. It's a remarkably complex system. Organizations and communities are really complex. So it is hard to describe it in that proverbial elevator talk, but we have to do it. And the more we can simplify the language around it, the easier it's going to be, I think, for leaders to understand what we're really truly accomplished. I mentioned the phrase that I think Joanne Starkey first coined, and a lot of people use it now. It's about getting better at getting better. If we can find ways to paraphrase the complexity of this framework into everyday language, it's really going to help. And so I guess that's how I would start. And we collectively do not have, I think, really effective marketing. We need better messaging. We need better collateral material. We need better ways, new ways, different ways. I've joked I need to be on a TikTok doing some of this stuff. I don't know if it breaks through new generations of leaders, but we need ways to communicate the value of this without our academic conversation.
Great comments. I mean, I think I like that we're recognizing some of the challenges that we've had. We're talking about a path forward. I'm trying to figure out how and where to put some of the questions. I'm trying to get to everybody's. Maybe this one. As we come close to closing, we've got some more time, but what do you think's next for the Alliance? What do you think in the coming year would be really next for us?
Out of those 60 listening sessions that produced 60 ideas, and then now that the Alliance is critically important in executing the national award process, I see 5 main priorities for 2026, and the board and I have had a couple of conversations about it, and they're not yet approved. So take this for what it is. They may shift a little bit, but they really center around 5 things. One is the national award cycle. We absolutely have to have a successful award cycle next year. I think most of you on the line probably know it's been a tough 5 years for everyone, right? Margo, you hinted at it. I've labeled it the perfect storm. You get to enjoy a global pandemic for a couple of years, and then the Baldrige program itself took a couple of year pause as they reevaluate themselves and came up with Baldrige Reimagine, which has now been implemented. But with any new program after 30 plus years, there's some bumps there too. I think we have to build upon the strengths of Baldrige, and we have to improve the good work that they've done for all the years and have a successful 26 cycle. And some of that, I give you hints of where that might go, and we can talk more about that later. The other 4, I'll just rattle them off real quick. I think, Margo, you mentioned this too. The Alliance itself needs to redesign our business model. And I don't know if it's a complete transformation, but it's how we operate with each other, how we share within the Alliance and across the Baldrige enterprise. So there's a priority centered on kind of an operational priority of how we operate together and with our partners. The third is, and I've hinted at this throughout this conversation, is offer more value to our members. More technology, new services, sharing of best practices, new ways for Alliance members to improve themselves, but also work more effectively with those that they work with. The fourth is expanding to new markets. We've had some conversations is why can't the Alliance go international? We have one member that's their whole business is focusing on international marketplaces. So we have a lot of work to do in the United States, don't get me wrong, and that's still our focus, but there's a lot of other markets that are untapped, and there's markets in the United States, Marco, you hinted at it. Manufacturing has kind of moved away from Baldrige over the years. We need to bring it back. That's the heart and soul of our economy. So focusing on new market segments and going deeper in the ones we have. And the last one, and we hinted on it just with the last question, is we are going to do some sort of a rebrand in 2026, which includes a much more robust marketing campaign. We've got to figure out how to tell our story more effectively in the marketplace. So those are the 5 areas I think we'll focus on next year. The details and action plans are yet to come.
Yeah, so let me take a softball on that. One of the things that we have talked about, and I want some context behind the person that asked this question and why I think it's an incredibly important question. But I want to put where multiple things can be true at once. We've often talked about there is a strength in the consultants who take organizations on the journey, the Alliance programs that also help, but then monitor, or I don't know what the right term is, I'll get it wrong, the award, and then everybody else that's in here and helping. We've also said that the consultants that have been on all sides of this and have taken an organization, they've really demonstrated results. So there is a question from one of them, Denise, that I think is really, really good right now at the end. How does this privatization that has taken place in this partnership with BPEP free us up to do things a little bit differently? Does it hinder us? How do you see that playing out going forward?
Is that to me or Margot, or who goes first?
It can be to either one of you.
Either one of us. Well, first of all, and Margot, you said this, so I'll build off of it. I think the new public-private partnership, which has always been the case, but the new arrangement we have with the national program does free us up to do new and innovative things. We still need to honor the law. The Baldrige is written into the law, and we still need to honor NIST and Commerce's requirements of what that means. So having said that, though, I think the role of the consultants needs to shift. There are many, and some of you are on the line, fine consultants that have done great work with these organizations and communities that want to get better. And I've heard over the years that you really don't have a home in the Baldrige enterprise. And maybe the Alliance becomes part of that home, and maybe the foundation does too. I think this opens up, still preserving firewalls, still preserving the conflicts of interest, or eliminating conflict of interest with the award itself. I think the role of consultants needs to be elevated within this whole future Baldrige enterprise. And I think there's some other unique things. We've mentioned AI. There's other things we could experiment with for the benefit of those that we serve. Margot, what would you add?
So, I keep coming back to our relationships and collaboration in the Baldrige enterprise, because we have to successfully launch the award cycle, but as a whole enterprise, we have to be successful. And so we need help from other folks to launch an effective award cycle. And I think some of the other entities need help from the Alliance. So it's really important that that collaboration takes place. You mentioned manufacturing. I'm a manufacturing gal. I spent 25 years in manufacturing. I worked for an organization that was a 2-time Baldrige recipient. I would love to get manufacturing back engaged. And there's a little bit of a bonus with manufacturing, depending on the size of the organization. The organization I came from was a global organization. So it created a lot of awareness that they were a Baldrige recipient just because of their pure size and outreach. And if we could get some larger global organizations, I think that would help with Baldrige being the best kept secret, is we could just leverage those. But I think marketing is a big part of what we need to, as a whole enterprise, get stronger at, and getting people out there advocating for doing Baldrige, and also creating more awareness.
Yeah, so it's funny, and I need to bring it up, and then we'll bring it to a close, because I think sometimes, so one of the other values in Baldrige is transparency. And I want to put some context to some of the conversations that I think have been very, very healthy that I've been able to watch in the room. And that is, I want to call it out, this tension between the award, sometimes the foundation, sometimes the consultant, sometimes BPAP, sometimes the framework. And I just want to say two things, or multiple things can be true at once. One is, there has been a tension, and there should be, but there's also this strength. And the spirit that I've always seen at the Alliance at the table with multiple debates is, how do all of those pieces come together? And, there's such an incredible role from everybody that's a part of this. And so what I want everybody on the call to know is the idea of everybody having a home, that has been a big discussion. But also, you also have to give kind of credit where people have produced results. And that's been a big discussion lately as well, as these things have to coexist together. So I think in that, there's some questions coming in about, wait, let's make sure we clarify. In a clarification, moving away from the government system, where does this free us up, Brian? Where does this really free us up? It protects the presidential seal. It protects the connection with national, NIST, and commerce. But where is this freeing us up to do some things different tomorrow?
Well, not that we've not listened to customers, but I think we need to be more responsive to the marketplace needs. We've talked about technology. We've talked about changing the evaluation process itself to eliminate steps or streamline it or simplify it in some ways. I think these are all ways that these can happen faster now. I think that the private sector can move a lot quicker without needing to go through layers of approval. We still have to honor like I said, the law and abide by what what NIST and Commerce are asking us to do. But I think we've got a lot more flexibility to try new things in response to customer and market needs. And so I'm kind of, it's an overarching comment, but I see a lot more of that happening in the future than probably has happened in the recent past.
Well, and I think a comment that's here, we're coming close to the end of our time. So I want to give you, there's two things that I think have been important questions. One of the clarifications that I think we've all talked about, and I'll just say it as plain as somebody in here did, is that there are some things now that this, with it moving away from government, actually opens the door for us to do things that just simply weren't possible before. And we can't get into what all those are, but I think that's a part of the excitement that many of us are feeling right now. It's a change, but it actually opened doors that we may not have had before. You want to comment on that before we move on to the last couple of questions?
Well, I'll let Margot comment. I agree with that comment completely. Margot, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, before I go on to that, in the law, and some people may not be aware of that. First of all, the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Presidential Award is in the law, and that has to be given out by the federal government. So even though the Alliance and the Foundation are taking on a lot of the support services, we are not the entity that's giving out the presidential award. It's the government still. The other thing is there are some FACA. Those are their federal committees. There's a board of overseers, and that is in law that still needs to take place. So we will be still liaising with the federal government, even though we're carrying out these services. And so I think the biggest thing is there's things that we can do around engaging other folks in what we do, and Brian's mentioned a couple things that maybe we can get some international organizations involved in the work that we do that we would have normally not been able to do. It'll be a different pathway for those organizations, but certainly we can engage folks outside of the U.S. in some of our activities. The biggest thing is, I think, advocating and marketing and all those things that there's been some limitations on doing. We have to stop having to have elevator speeches that when you get off the elevator, people are still looking at us like, I still don't get it. So how do we create that messaging where people go, oh, I know what Baldrige is and I want to be part of it. And we spend more time getting them to understand what Baldrige is before we get the opportunity to get them involved in it.
All right, so now I guess I have the hard part of figuring out how to close this in 1 minute. So how can people get involved with this? What's next?
Many on the line, I think, already are. So thank you for serving Alliance members, for the national program and everything. If you're not, jump in, volunteer with your Alliance member programs. You can become an examiner or a judge over time. But there's a lot of other ways to get involved too, committees and task forces and so forth. Just start. I have heard this label profound learning. So jump in, start contributing, and start learning about the power of this Baldrige framework.
Go on.
Go ahead, Margo.
I always laugh. Brian and I have this sort of running joke that we're very different people, but for some reason we think alike. And I almost had the same couple bullets down as what you just said, Brian. So I totally concur.
So I'd like to honor another person that has been pretty successful in the Baldrige world, which is Paul Grizel. And I think he has a really good final comment, which is, and I think this fits a lot of us. Sometimes we've seen each other as competitors, which isn't always bad. And maybe the shift is, and he didn't say this, but he did say, we don't always see ourselves as supporters and partners. And maybe that's a message today, is in order to really take care of our applicants, our states, our nation, is how do we become collaborators and partners, or better collaborators and partners if we haven't? And so I think that's a really good place to end this. I think that's the new chapter that can open, is let's go out and make this an award that at the family picnic, we don't have to explain what Baldrige is. People are asking us more about it. And then Margo, next Thursday, what is it?
So in December, we have two fantastic speakers. If you haven't seen them, We hope you can join us. We have John and Carolyn, who are recent retirees of 2020 Baldrige recipient GBMC Healthcare. John was the CEO, and Caroline was the Senior Vice President over patient experience. They're going to talk about how they use their integrated leadership system to drive meaningful improvement. So we'll get this out to all of you. There's a link here to register, but we hope to see you for our final webinar of 2025, and we are working on our schedule for 2026. So, you know, we always have on the third Thursday of each month a chance for all of us to gather together.
Well, Margot, this is typically yours, so
okay.
give it
Well,
back.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I had a lot of fun sharing about the Alliance, and Brian, you did an awesome job, and we couldn't have done it without Heath moderating. So we hope that you found value in our conversation today. We'll review all your comments and questions that you shared with us in the question box. And if there's some that we weren't able to get to, we'll try to circle back and follow up with all of you. But thank you for your support. We look forward to engaging with you because it's all about collaboration. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Bye.